Commander Vyra Nixel glided through the corridors of the hegemony warship Indomitable Will, her chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the blue-tinted lights. The neural implants at her temples pulsed with each status report that flowed directly into her consciousness. As the ship's highest-ranking Selenari officer, efficiency was not merely expected, it was demanded. The Selenari hegemony had conquered 17 star systems in the last cycle. Humans were the 18th acquisition, though the term acquisition was diplomatic fiction. In reality, Earth and its colonies had fallen in less than a standard week. Vyra paused before the holding cell, her compound eyes taking in multiple angles simultaneously as she observed the prisoner. Unlike the other captured specimens who cowered or begged, this one stood tall, shoulders squared. The audacity was intriguing. Specimen designation: Kosuke Ryusei, former pilot of the Earth Defense Force, she announced, mandibles clicking softly with each syllable. You have been selected for the enhancement program. The human Kosuke tilted his head. His dark eyes reflected the cell's harsh lighting, revealing no fear. I have a name, not a designation, he replied. And I don't recall applying for any program. Vyra's antennae twitched in irritation. The translation matrix rarely failed to convey appropriate deference. Perhaps a malfunction. Your application was your survival, she stated. The enhancement program will optimize your biological functions for service to the hegemony. Resistance is futile, unwise, forbidden. Kosuke interrupted with a soft laugh that contained no humor. Your species needs to develop better dialogue. Writers. Vyra took 3 precise steps forward. The human did not retreat. You misunderstand your position, she said. The Selenari do not seek conquest for territorial gain. We seek biological diversity. Your species possesses certain adaptability traits, neural plasticity, emotional resilience, attributes the hegemony finds valuable. So we're not slaves. We're just unwilling organ donors. Crude, but not entirely. Inaccurate. Vyra gestured and the cell barrier dissolved. The matriarchy has determined that human neural architecture may be compatible with our biotechnology. Your mind will serve the greater collective. Kosuke's expression remained unchanged, but something flashed behind his eyes. Not fear, but calculation. And if I refuse? Refusal indicates defective cognitive processing. Defective specimens are recycled for base material. The human stepped forward, crossing the threshold of his cell without hesitation. The guards flanking Vyra raised their weapons, but she signaled them to stand down. You're not what I expected, Kosuke said quietly. Elaborate, Vyra commanded. The others like you, the officers I've seen, they avoid direct contact with humans. They send drones or lower ranks. Yet here you are, personally collecting me. Curious. Vyra felt an uncomfortable sensation in her neural network, a ripple of something that the collective consciousness would flag for adjustment during her next synchronization. I oversee the enhancement program, she replied. High-value specimens receive direct supervision. Kosuke smiled, an expression Vyra had learned to interpret as either pleasure or threat display. In this context, she could not determine which. So I'm high value. Good to know. Follow, she ordered, turning abruptly to lead him toward the laboratory section. As they walked, Vyra became uncomfortably aware of the human's gait behind her. Unhurried, almost casual. Unlike other specimens who shuffled or trembled, this one moved with purpose. The guards seemed to notice too, gripping their weapons more tightly. For the first time since her final molten officer ascension, Commander Vyra Nixel felt something. Beyond the clarity of duty and logic, she felt uncertainty. The laboratory aboard the Indomitable Will hummed with energy as bioluminescent panels cast an eerie glow across intricate machinery. Technicians with elongated limbs and specialized appendages worked in perfect synchronization, their movements a choreographed dance of efficiency. Kosuke stood on the scanning platform as light particles mapped his physiology. He remained perfectly still, but his eyes tracked every movement, every instrument, every potential exit. Your heart rate is elevated but stable, Vera noted, watching holographic readouts hover before her. Most specimens experience physiological distress during evaluation. I'm not most specimens, Kosuke replied. 7 years as a deep space pilot. I've been scanned by machines that make this look like children's toys. Vera's antennae twitched. AI gaze, subtle tell that Kosuke had already catalogued. Irritation, perhaps, or interest. Your confidence is misplaced, she said. Human technology is primitive compared to Selenari biotechnology. We evolved beyond mechanical interfaces 3 millennia ago. Yet you still haven't figured out how to make comfortable chairs, Kosuke observed, nodding toward the rigid surfaces around the laboratory. Maybe there's something to be said for primitive comforts. A technician approached with a neural probe, a glistening organic tendril that pulsed with faint blue light. Kosuke's expression hardened. That goes nowhere near my brain without an explanation, he said quietly. It is merely a diagnostic tool, Vera explained, her tone flat. It will map your neural pathways for compatibility assessment. And after assessment? Vera hesitated, an action so uncharacteristic that 2 technicians paused their work momentarily. After assessment, compatible subjects undergo enhancement. Kosuke's eyes narrowed. Meaning what, exactly? Selected neural pathways are augmented with Selenari biotechnology, creating a hybrid consciousness capable of interfacing directly with hegemony systems. And what happens to the original consciousness? To me? The question hung in the air. Vera felt an unfamiliar sensation, something the collective would certainly flag as dysfunction. She dismissed the technicians with a sharp gesture, waiting until they retreated to a respectful distance. The human individuality construct is preserved as a subroutine, she said finally. It remains accessible, but subordinate to hegemony directives. Kosuke's laugh was sharp and sudden. So I become a passenger in my own mind, a backseat driver watching someone else operate my body. You misunderstand. The enhancement creates a superior state of being. The primitive isolation of individual consciousness is transcended. Transcended, Kosuke repeated, the word bitter on his tongue. That's a beautiful way to describe mental slavery. Vera stepped closer, her tall form looming over him. The matriarchy has enhanced 17 species. All serve vital functions within the hegemony. All contribute to our expansion. This is evolution, human. Forced evolution isn't evolution at all, it's just another form of extinction. Something in his words triggered another ripple through Vera's neural network, a dissonance she couldn't immediately suppress. The human was speaking heresy, yet the logic centers of her mind found unexpected coherence in his argument. Your resistance is noted but irrelevant, she stated, reasserting control over the conversation. Prepare the primary injection sequence, she ordered the technicians. As they approached with the first set of biotechnical implants, Kosuke's eyes never left Vera's compound gaze. You know, he said quietly, there's something about you that's different from the others. I think somewhere under all that chitinous perfection, you actually have doubts. The Selenari consciousness does not experience doubt, she replied automatically. Then, why did you dismiss the technicians before answering my question? Why speak to me directly at all? Doubts, Commander. You have them. Vera felt her inner mandibles click, a childhood reflex she thought long suppressed. Proceed with the procedure, she ordered sharply, turning away from the human's penetrating gaze. But as she walked toward the monitoring station, she realized with growing unease that his observation had struck an unexpected resonance within her perfectly ordered mind. 3 solar cycles had passed since Kosuke's initial enhancement procedure. Unlike standard subjects who required recovery periods in isolation chambers, the human had remained conscious throughout the neural integration process, a phenomenon that both fascinated and disturbed the scientific team. Vera studied the data, scrolling across her visual field as she approached the observation chamber. Subject 774, no, Kosuke Ryusei, showed unprecedented integration rates. The biotechnology had bonded with his neural pathways without the usual rejection symptoms, yet something was different. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, Koski sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes closed, seemingly meditating. The faint blue glow of the neural implants at his temples pulsed with his heartbeat. "Your vital signs indicate wakefulness," Vera stated. "There is no need to pretend unconsciousness." Kosuke opened his eyes. "I wasn't pretending. I was compartmentalizing." "Explain." "Your technology is impressive," he acknowledged, rising to his feet with fluid grace. "It's trying to establish dominance over my thought patterns. I'm simply negotiating the terms." Vera's antennae stiffened. "Negotiation is not part of the enhancement protocol. The biotechnology is designed for complete neural subjugation. And yet, here we are." Kosuke tapped his temple. "Your scientists seem quite interested in why I'm not a drooling convert yet. I've counted 8 emergency conferences out." This was unexpected. The human should not be aware of external activities while undergoing neural reorganization. Vera took a step closer, her compound eyes focusing on the subtle shifts in his expression. "You have accessed the surveillance network," she realized. Kosuke smiled. "Not intentionally. It seems your biotechnology works both ways. I'm receiving as much as I'm transmitting." Alarm rippled through Vera's neural pathways. This was unprecedented, dangerous. She should alert the matriarchy immediately, have the subject terminated before contamination spread. Instead, she found herself asking, "What have you learned?" "That the Selenari aren't as unified as you pretend to be. There's a faction that questions the enhancement program, questions the ethics of it. They're subtle, but they exist." Vera's mandibles clicked rapidly, an involuntary response she couldn't suppress. "Impossible. The collective consciousness eliminates divergent thought patterns during synchronization. Unless those thoughts are deliberately hidden," Kosuke suggested, "compartmentalized like I've been doing. Someone high in your hierarchy is shielding these dissenters." Vera should have called security, should have reported this dangerous development. Instead, she dismissed the guards with a sharp gesture. "These accusations are treasonous," she said, her voice lower now. "Even articulating such thoughts would trigger immediate reconditioning. Yet here you are, listening instead of reporting." Kosuke took a step toward her, close enough that she could sense the heat emanating from his body. "Why is that, Commander?" The question hung between them, dangerous and electric. Vera felt something stirring beneath her perfectly ordered consciousness, something ancient and powerful that the enhancement procedures had supposedly eliminated generations ago. "Your integration is incomplete," she said finally. "These are delusions caused by neural resistance." "Are they? Or am I simply showing you what you already know but can't acknowledge?" He gestured to the implants at his temples. "Your technology didn't subjugate me. It connected us." With sudden clarity, Vera realized the discomfort she'd been experiencing wasn't system malfunction. It was emotional resonance. Somehow the neural connection had created a feedback loop, allowing Kosuke's unfiltered human emotions to bleed into her consciousness. "This violation will be corrected," she stated, struggling to maintain composure. "The next phase of enhancement will eliminate these irregularities. The next phase will kill what makes me human," Kosuke said quietly. "And I think that bothers you more than you're willing to admit." Vera turned abruptly, moving toward the exit. "Prepare for advanced integration at next cycle," she commanded, her voice deliberately cold. But as the door sealed behind her, she felt something unprecedented, a single thought not her own resonating through her neural network. "You feel it too." The wrongness of all this. Vera froze, antennae quivering. The thought wasn't an intrusion from Kosuke. It had emerged from somewhere deep within her own consciousness, a place untouched by generations of Selenari conditioning. For the first time in her existence, Commander Vera Nixel experienced something beyond the scope of her training. She experienced doubt. The command center of the indomitable will pulsed with activity as reports flooded in from across the conquered Earth territories. Resistance cells had emerged with surprising coordination, targeting Selenari communication nodes with unexpected precision. Status report, Vera demanded, her chitin armor gleaming under the emergency lighting. Disruptions in sectors 7 through 13, reported Subcommander Lyrex. The human resistance has acquired Selenari encryption protocols. They're anticipating our response patterns. Impossible. The encryption algorithms were generated through the collective neural network. Unless the enhanced subjects, Vera, realized. Status report on all human specimens undergoing enhancement. The data spheres before her reorganized, displaying status indicators for all subjects. Most showed normal integration patterns, except one. Subject 774 shows anomalous neural activity, Lyrex confirmed. His connection to the network has been temporarily suspended pending investigation. I will handle the investigation personally, Vera declared, already moving toward the exit. Continue counterinsurgency protocols. The corridors seemed longer than usual as she made her way to the high-security laboratory section. Kosuke's chamber was surrounded by additional guards, their weapon appendages primed. Dismissed, she ordered. When they hesitated, her antennae flared. That was not a suggestion. Inside, Kosuke stood at the observation window, gazing at the blue-green planet visible in the distance. The neural implants at his temples pulsed, with irregular patterns. Beautiful view, he said without turning. Your species chose an excellent vantage point to oversee our subjugation. You've compromised the network, Vera stated, bypassing pretense. Somehow you've transmitted Selenari tactical data to the human resistance. Now Kosuke turned, his eyes clear and focused. Not directly. But it seems when humans undergo your enhancement, some small part of their consciousness remains connected to their species. A quantum entanglement your scientists didn't anticipate. Impossible. The procedure severs all previous neural connections. You can't sever what you don't understand, Kosuke said simply. Human connection isn't just neural. It's something more. Vera approached the monitoring console, reviewing the data streams. What she saw defied Selenari science. Subconscious, communication patterns, operating beneath the enhancement protocols, creating a subtle network between all enhanced humans. This is unprecedented, she murmured, more to herself than to Kosuke. Not really. Humans have always found ways to resist when backed into corners. History is full of examples. Vera's compound eyes fixed on him. The resistance activities are too coordinated. They're receiving tactical guidance. Kosuke shrugged. Perhaps, or perhaps humans are simply more adaptable than your matriarchy anticipated. Something wasn't right. Kosuke seemed too calm, too confident. Vera accessed the deeper monitoring systems and discovered an alarming anomaly. His neural implants were fully functional, but operating on a secondary frequency. One that mirrored Selenari command protocols. You've reprogrammed the implants, she realized, astonishment rippling through her consciousness. Not reprogrammed, Kosuke corrected. Negotiated with. Your biotechnology is semi-sentient. Did you know that? It responds to more than just directive programming. It responds to emotion. The implications were staggering. If the biotechnology could be influenced by human emotion, the entire enhancement program was compromised. This discovery will necessitate your immediate termination, Vera stated, though the words felt hollow even as she spoke them. You could do that, Kosuke acknowledged. Or you could consider what this means. Your technology responds to emotion, something your species has supposedly evolved beyond. What does that tell you about your own evolution? Vera felt that now familiar ripple of dissonance. The collective would demand Kosuke's immediate termination and dissection. The data would be analyzed, the vulnerability eliminated. Yet she hesitated. Resistance, she said slowly. They're not just fighting against occupation. They're fighting for the enhanced humans. Kosuke nodded. For their humanity, for their right to feel. Feeling is inefficient, Vera stated automatically. The collective eliminated emotional responses to optimize decision-making. Did they? Or did they just bury those emotions so deeply that you've forgotten they exist? Kosuke stepped closer. Why haven't you called security yet, Commander? Why are we still talking? The question hung between them like a challenge. Vera realized with sudden clarity that she disabled the chamber's surveillance upon entering, an action without logical justification. I am collecting information, she said, but the explanation sounded weak even to her own hearing appendages. You're curious, Kosuke corrected gently. You're feeling curiosity, Vera, probably for the first time since your final molt. The use of her name, not her rank or designation, sent another ripple through her neural network, and with it came a realization that threatened the very foundation of her existence. She wanted to know more. The secret chamber deep within the maintenance sectors had once been a storage unit for obsolete biological samples. Now, it served as an improbable meeting place. Vera had disabled the tracking nodes in her exoskeleton, a serious violation of hegemony protocol, to ensure her movements remained undetected. Kosuke sat across from her, the dim emergency lighting casting shadows across his face. Between them hovered a holographic display showing the spread of the resistance movement. 17 more enhanced humans have broken their programming in the past cycle, he explained. They're establishing a secondary network, independent of Selenari control. The matriarchy will detect this divergence eventually, Vera cautioned. Mass termination protocols will be implemented. Unless the words hung between them, treasonous and exhilarating. Vera's antennae quivered with emotion she could no longer deny. 4 cycles of clandestine meetings with Kosuke had awakened something long suppressed in her genetic memory, a capacity for independent thought that predated the collective. What you're proposing is revolution, she said quietly. I prefer evolution, Kosuke replied. Your own scientists confirmed it. The biotechnology responds to emotional input because it was designed by beings who once had emotions themselves. Somewhere in your species' past, the Selenari felt as deeply as humans do. Vera's compound, eyes fixed on the data streams. The historical archives make no mention of this. History is written by the victors, Kosuke said. Or in your case, by the collective that conquered its own people's individuality before turning to the stars. The truth of his words resonated through neural pathways that should have rejected such concepts. Yet Vera found herself accessing restricted historical archives, searching for confirmation. There, she murmured, isolating a data fragment. 8 millennia ago, before the first unification, references to emotional disharmony among the pre-collective Selenari, not eliminated, but suppressed through selective neural modification. They didn't evolve beyond emotion, Kosuke concluded. They feared it, feared its power. Vera placed a multi-jointed appendage on the console, ancient instincts guiding her movements as she bypassed security protocols to access deeper archives. The enhancement program, she said slowly, was never about improving other species. It was about harvesting their emotional capacity while keeping it contained. A battery, Kosuke suggested, using other species' emotional energy to power something. Vera's movements became more urgent as she accessed files that should have been beyond even her clearance level. What she found sent shockwaves through her neural network. The matriarchy chamber, she whispered. The central consciousness that guides all Selenari decision-making. It requires emotional energy to function, energy our species can no longer generate naturally. Kosuke leaned forward. So each conquered species becomes emotional fuel, harvested and controlled through enhancement. Yes. The revelation should have triggered automatic loyalty protocols, forcing Vera to report herself for reconditioning. Instead, she felt something new blossoming within her consciousness. Outrage. My entire existence has been in service to a lie, she said, her voice uncharacteristically modulated with emotion. Not just yours, Kosuke said gently. Your entire species has been enslaved by its own creation. Vera's compound eyes fixed on him with new intensity. The resistance. If they found a way to subvert the enhancement technology, Then we might find a way to free your people as well, Kosuke finished. The same biotechnology that was meant to enslave us could liberate the Selenari from their self-imposed, emotional prison. For the first time in her existence, Vera Nixil experienced something that thousands of years of selective breeding and neural modification had nearly eliminated from her species: hope. We would need access to the Central Enhancement Protocol, she said, already formulating a plan, and a way to transmit the modified code to all enhanced subjects simultaneously, and a way to protect them during the transition, Kosuke added. Your matriarchy won't surrender its emotional battery without a fight. Vira's antennae straightened with sudden resolve. There is a way, but it would require something no Selenari has attempted in millennia. What? Complete neural synchronization with a non-Selenari consciousness. Vera's compound eyes fixed on Kosuke. With you. The implications hung between them. Intimate, dangerous, revolutionary. A true connection, Kosuke said quietly. Not domination or subjugation, but partnership. Yes. Vera felt her inner mandibles click with nervous energy, another suppressed instinct reawakening. It would allow us to broadcast modified enhancement code through both networks simultaneously. The risks? Total neural collapse for both participants, Vira stated candidly. Or worse, permanent entrapment in a hybrid consciousness neither human nor Selenari. Kosuke considered this for a moment, then smiled. That expression Vera had come to recognize not as a threat display but as genuine warmth. Honestly, he said, that doesn't sound so terrible. And for the first time in her life, Commander Vera Nixil did something no Selenari had done in recorded history. She laughed. The matriarchy chamber pulsed with bioluminescent energy, its curved walls lined with thousands of neural interface nodes. At the center, suspended in nutrient fluid, floated the matriarchs, ancient Selenari whose physical forms had been preserved while their consciousness became the governing intelligence of the entire species. Vira moved with deliberate precision through the maintenance access tunnels, Kosuke close behind her. Both were dressed in technician exoskeletons, their true identities concealed beneath respiratory masks and specialized appendage coverings. The synchronization terminal is located in the northeastern quadrant, she subvocalized, the words transmitted directly to the modified implant at Kosuke's temple. It was designed for matriarchal consciousness transfer during the rare instances when a physical host body fails. And you're sure it can be repurposed? Kosuke replied through the same channel. Theoretically, the principles are similar to the enhancement procedure but inverted. They paused at a junction, waiting as a patrol of elite guards passed. The revolution had begun 16 hours earlier, with enhanced humans across the occupied territories suddenly breaking their programming simultaneously. The hegemony's response had been swift and brutal, but also predictable, drawing forces away from the indomitable will. We have a 7-minute window before the next security sweep, Vera noted, checking the patrol schedules she had memorized. They moved quickly through the final corridor, reaching the synchronization chamber without incident. Inside, the technology was ancient and organic, pulsing nodes of living tissue connected to crystalline structures that hummed with energy. This technology predates the collective, Vira explained, interfacing with the central console. It recognizes individual consciousness signatures without filtering them through hegemony protocols. Convenient oversight, Kosuke observed. Not oversight, necessity. The transfer process requires authentic consciousness, something the matriarchy usually controls but cannot alter at this fundamental level. As Vera prepared the system, Kosuke moved to the observation portal. Beyond it, the massive chamber where the physical forms of the matriarchs were housed came into view. The ancient Selenari floated in their preservation tanks, their bodies atrophied but their neural pathways glowing with intense activity. They look, Kosuke began. Imprisoned, Vera finished. Because they are. The original matriarchs chose this existence, but their consciousness has been corrupted over millennia. What remains is a system that perpetuates itself at all costs. The synchronization apparatus emerged from recesses in the floor too organic, pods connected by pulsing neural fibers. Vera's antennae quivered as she completed the final adjustments. Once we initiate synchronization, the matriarchy will detect the unauthorized access immediately, she warned. We will have approximately 3 minutes to complete the consciousness merger and broadcast the modified code before security protocols engage. Kosuke approached the human-adapted pod, modified hours earlier in secret. And if we succeed, all enhanced humans will receive the liberation protocol, breaking the hegemony's control. Simultaneously, all Selenari connected to the collective will receive emotional awakening sequences, restoration of neural pathways long suppressed. And the matriarchs? Vera's compound eyes dimmed slightly. Their consciousness has been corrupted beyond recovery. The system must be reset. You mean destroyed, Kosuke said gently. It's okay to say it. Yes, she acknowledged. The collective consciousness that has guided my species for millennia will cease. Individual Selenari will need to rediscover their autonomy. They'll have help, Kosuke reminded her, gesturing to the small device they had brought, a quantum transmitter that would broadcast their merged consciousness experience to both human and Selenari networks simultaneously. They'll feel everything we feel during the merger. They'll remember what it means to be individuals. Vira initiated the final sequence, the synchronization pods opening with a soft organic sound. There is something else you should know, she said, hesitating. Once our consciousness merger is complete, separation may be difficult. Meaning? We may remain partially merged even after the broadcast is complete. Some aspects of our consciousness could be permanently intertwined. Kosuke considered this for a moment, before a smile spread across his face. So, I'll have a Selenari consciousness looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life, and you'll have a human one? In simplified, I can think of worse fates, he said, stepping toward his pod. I've grown rather fond of your perspective, Commander. Something warm and unfamiliar spread through Vera's neural network, an emotion she was still learning to identify. Affection, perhaps, or something deeper. Synchronization in 30 seconds, she announced, entering her own pod. The neural interfaces engaged, creating a direct connection between their minds. Vera felt the barriers of her consciousness begin to dissolve, as Kosuke's thoughts, memories, and emotions flowed into her awareness. Human experiences, joy, sorrow, love, pain, cascaded through neural pathways that had never known such intensity. And flowing in the opposite direction, her own experiences, the ordered precision of Selenari consciousness, the vast knowledge of the collective, the emerging wonder of rediscovered emotion. Their merged consciousness expanded outward, touching the quantum transmitter and broadcasting across both networks. Across Earth and throughout the fleet, enhanced humans gasped as control protocols shattered. Within every Selenari ship and colony, individuals froze as emotional capacity suddenly reawakened. In the matriarchy chamber, alarms blared as ancient systems detected the unauthorized activation. Security forces converged on their location, weapons charged, but they were already succeeding. Vera could feel it, thousands, then millions of minds awakening, remembering, feeling. The liberation cascade had begun, unstoppable now as it spread from consciousness to consciousness. We've done it, Kosuke's thoughts whispered within their merged mind. Yes, Vera responded, but now comes the difficult part. Learning to be free, learning to feel together. As security forces breached the outer door, their merged consciousness reached toward the final phase of their plan, not destruction, but transformation. The matriarchy would not be obliterated but reborn, a guide rather than a controller, wisdom without domination. The universe shifted around them as two species began a journey neither had anticipated. Evolution through connection rather than conquest. And at the center of the transformation, a human and a Selenari remained connected, proof that understanding could bridge even the most distant of worlds. Ready? Kosuke's consciousness asked as they prepared for the final broadcast. Ready, Vira answered. For the first time in her existence, she felt completely, gloriously alive. Together, they reached